Welcome to this explainer. Okay, we're diving straight into a super practical guide from Built to Thrive's formation and structure domain. It's called What You Need to Separate Early: Owner, Business, and Money. Just to orient us right out of the gate, this is the second of 3 awareness guides in the Choose Your Structure path. Now, really quickly, Built to Thrive works across 3 distinct layers. First up is awareness, which helps you understand the domain, why it matters, and where problems actually begin. Then there's practice to help you build out those habits, records, and tools. And finally, maturity, which helps you operate with more consistency, clearer control, and a lot less strain on you as the owner. As I mentioned, this specific guide sits squarely right here in that foundational awareness layer. Right, let's get into it. Here is the absolute core truth of this guide. Confusion builds quickly when the owner, the business, and the money are treated as one thing. Literally, if you let these 3 elements blur together, everything becomes a tangled mess almost instantly. The main thing to remember is that a business needs boundaries way before it needs complexity. The goal right now isn't to build out some massive, complicated financial system, not at all. The goal is simply to understand what must be kept distinct so your structure starts off super clean. So, following the guide, building this clear blueprint really just comes down to 3 initial steps. We need to separate the activity, separate the decisions, and separate the money. Let's look at how we actually do that. Step 1 is to separate yourself, the owner, from the business activity itself. Even if you are the one doing absolutely everything, the business activity still needs to be its own identifiable thing. You have to clearly define what is actually being offered, the specific name being used, the commitments being made, and what obligations might pop up down the line. Moving to step 2, separate your personal decisions from your business decisions. This is huge. Your personal needs, your own risk tolerance, and how comfortable you are with admin work, those are not the same thing as what your business structure needs. You'll make a much clearer structure decision when you separate your personal preferences from what the business actually requires to function. And step 3 is separating the business from the money. Listen, mixed money creates confusion incredibly fast. It spreads like wildfire. As the owner, you absolutely must establish what money belongs to the business activity and what is purely personal. You need to know exactly what you contributed, what the business actually earned, and what needs to be tracked later on. No, a quick aside. The actual day-to-day financial routines, those are handled over in the tax and financial discipline guides. That's where you'll find the practical stuff, like what to do in your first 30 minutes, what actually matters in your first 90 days, how to set up record keeping without overthinking it, how to track expenses without making it complicated, and how to know when GST or HST is starting to matter. We aren't doing that here. Okay, step 4. Understand the boundaries, specifically practical separation versus legal separation. If you're a sole proprietor, practical separation is what keeps your business activity understandable, even though you and the business aren't legally separate the way a corporation is. But if you have a corporation, legal separation means the corporation is literally its own legal entity, period. And that strict separation has to be respected across the board in ownership, records, decisions, agreements, and how the money moves. Step 5 is all about spotting confusion early. Where is it already creeping in? Look out for common signals like unclear ownership or unclear authority. Mixed money is a big one. Or maybe unclear commitments. Are you using a business name without really knowing what that means legally? Or maybe you're considering incorporation without really knowing why. If any of that sounds familiar, it's time to check those boundaries. To help you actively map out these boundaries right now, we have some matching tools available to get you started. There's the owner-business separation checklist, the personal versus business boundary sheet, and the money flow starter map. Just remember, tools for structure are not substitution. These tools focus entirely on structure and separation. They don't replace the bookkeeping routines, banking, and expense tracking that, again, are handled over in those tax and financial discipline guides we mentioned a minute ago. So, what's next? Well, as I said, this is the second of 3 awareness guides in this path. The next guide up is sole proprietor or corporation, what the choice really changes. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this question to chew on. Are the owner, the business, and the money still being treated as one thing? Before you even think about choosing a structure, make absolutely sure these aren't being lumped together. Clearer separation now makes that structure decision so much easier to understand later. And just a quick reminder, this explainer is strictly for educational purposes and does not substitute for legal, tax, or accounting advice. Thanks so much for joining me today.